Hi, my name is Abhinav, and the one message that I wanted to give at the very beginning is that if there was a time to take the road less traveled, it is now. If you look at things around yourself, there are so many challenges which are happening that if we don't contribute, each one of us does not contribute, these challenges will never be surmountable. Okay, so before I dive into what I have been doing and how I have been contributing, let me just give you a brief introduction about myself. I belong to a family based out of Delhi. My grandfather used to be the first horologist of this country, where he used to make watches. He set up his own brand, and most of the clock towers that you will see in India, in the north of India at least, have been sort of set up by him. My other grandfather, which is my maternal grandfather, used to be a chief engineer, and he set up a lot of water plants. He set up the Bhagra Nangal Dam. He set up this is the photograph from a family album of Kalindi Kunj, the barrage which is there. You would not even recognize it towards the right. Very, very academically oriented family, very achievement oriented, very focused on doing things which were, coming out of studying and stuff like that. In fact, my family has a saying that Mathur ka ladka pada bhala ya mara bhala. So education used to be a great focus in us. But having said, the center's photograph is of a uncle of my father. The real uncle of my father, he is a film star, Motilal. He's done some 50 odd films. So the family had a lot of academics, but a lot of fun, a lot of creativity also in it. And throughout my life, right from the very beginning, I was encouraged to, act, sing, draw, paint, be in sports and so on and so forth. And if you're wondering what are these various things which I've written below, these are some things which I've done even before I graduated out of 12th. And where I've earned money doing that. So the family used to really encourage us to be enterprising. So I worked as a newspaper vendor. I've sold colors of Holi. I've sold kites. I've sold Rakhis and so on and so forth. Having done all of that, and I used to play football. The previous speaker was talking about football and the passion for football. I captained my school football team, and I was so passionate about playing in the various extracurricular activities that I ended up failing in my 11th standard. I got a 28 out of 100 in maths, and I was failed. But then I negotiated with the principal, and I told that principal that if you will not pass me or give me another opportunity, I will stop playing football. And I was given that opportunity, and I then passed that particular thing, just scraped through. But the great thing which happened during that time was a couple of conversations with my family, and I sort of decided to study. The same teacher who gave me 28 out of 100 gave me 92 in the very next term in the maths, and they were absolutely amazed with regards to what happened, because I had never studied ever with that kind of focus. And a person who failed in his 11th standard then went on to join NSIT, computer sciences. I did computer sciences from NSIT in 92, and then went on to do my Ph.D. from IIT Delhi and an MBA from IIM Lucknow. So even I today, if I were to stand and think about what I have been able to do academically and could it have been predicted, I just can't imagine that happening. But post that, I had the opportunity to work for a company called CDOT, which is into telecom, where I was a part of many prime ministerial committees, even before the age of 30. I then went on to become the country managing director of India's first technology incubator. I started 3 startups myself, and then sold them, exited from them. And then I was decided to do something at a more corporate kind of environment. And I, sort of was the head of strategy and technology for a $2 billion group, which was 30 countries, which was in 30 countries, had 3 publicly listed entities. And I ran that group for close to 6 years. So that's something which I did, and all before the age of 45. Now, subsequently, I started to delve on, is that it? Is that something? Is there more that I can do? And the more I thought about it, I personally believe that this line is extremely important, especially in the context of today. One needs to leave the world a little better than how you found it. That's what is the best that any man can do. And that's what I started to sort of think about. And at that time, when I was sort of pondering on them, I don't know how many of you would have come across this particular terminology. It's called the Millennium Development Goals. United Nations and certain other organizations came together to say that before we enter the new millennium, that is by the year 2000, we should achieve certain goals. And these were some of the goals that were enumerated. But none of them actually could get ever accomplished. So the reason for that is probably the greatest threat, and we talk about a lot of threats on our planet, but the greatest threat that our planet actually faces is the belief that someone else will actually take care of it. None of us, although we know the problems, we are aware of the problems, we don't go deeper, we don't scratch the surface, and then we blame the entire world that, oh, this is not happening because of the following reason, and so on and so forth. Despite the fact that, you know, there were goals very clearly listed out, none of these could be achieved because, again, like, nobody really wanted to come out of their own comfort zones and try to solve them. And subsequently, United Nations had come up with these set of sustainable development goals, SDGs. I'm sure some of you or most of you would at least have come across these and would have maybe come across these in posters. So there are things like climate action, life above water, life on land, pollution. There are so many things which would resonate to you because you have seen these problems, but you have never really reflected. The one thing that we contribute is, you know, we don't burst crackers, and that's about it. I don't think many of us do anything beyond that. So each of these get actually impacted by some of the actions that we take. And it is important that we become aware of it. And there is lack of awareness, essentially, because of which these things are not getting solved, and lack of action from our side. So, you know, just as an example, right, while we do not burst crackers, because that is what we have been told, there is a lot of propaganda around Diwali and so on and so forth. But if you look at small other actions that we could have taken, or which we should be aware that we are impacting, you know, use of plastic bags, use of plastic bottles, that's also something very cliche, right? Lots of people talk about it. Buying a jeans is 40,000 liters of water. Buying a sort of a shirt is around 15-20,000 liters of water, and today we buy them by the dozen, every single fortnight we will want to go and buy, because there is just so much money around. When we were small children, we used to basically, if we were feeling hungry at 11 o'clock in the night, we'll either sleep hungry, or we'll at the most go to a fridge, open up the door, take out a slice of bread, put butter on it, eat it and sleep. But today, the option that is available to you, you all exercise is you order a 12-inch pizza at 12 o'clock in the night, eat half of it, which is getting manufactured maybe 20-30 minutes away. Somebody comes and delivers it to you. There is so much packaging in it. There is so much cutlery. And, you know, you don't really think too much about it. You don't think too much about opening a bottle of Thumbs Up from time to time, right? There is so much packaging which we throw every single day, and each of these things impact us. So the more I thought about this problem, along with certain friends, I realized that that's the wrong way of looking at sustainable development goals. The right way to look at sustainable development goals is like this. Essentially, unless and until people are educated and they understand what is their role, what is their family's role, and what is the community's role in solving the sustainable development goals, nothing can really happen. So which is when we started to think about education more deeply. And education, there are tons of problems in education, especially in this country, and I'm not just saying this country, but more, across the globe itself, because the focus is largely on literacy and numeracy. There is little focus on the rest of the problems which could be solved through education. And if you look at every one of the sustainable development goals are rooted inside education itself, and it's important, it is imperative that every single teacher understands these, and they also understand how to impart that to students. So that's what we started thinking of. But the more we thought about it, when we delved deeper into education, the Sustainable Development Goal 4 for education states that you have to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning for everybody. and there is no lifelong learning for teachers itself. There is so much gaps in the understanding of the teachers. The teachers come from the same sort of education system as we do, and they have the same gaps which are there in each one of us in our understanding and so on and so forth. So that's how we started to focus on teachers, because finally, if you look at unit economics, so when you look at a business, you try to look at whether this business is sustainable at a unit level or not. Similarly, when you look at education, the unit of education is finally the classroom, where there is a single teacher who is teaching maybe 30, 40, in certain cases in this country, 100 children in a single classroom. Now, if that teacher's interaction with the students is improved, then we will be in a position to actually have a much better education system and a society which is much more sustainable. So that's what we started to do, and we truly believe that teachers affect eternity. They can never tell where their influence stops. A teacher today would be teaching pilots, a teacher would be teaching doctors, a teacher would be teaching engineers, a teacher would be teaching the future Prime Minister of this country somewhere in a classroom. You don't even know which corner of the country, and the better inputs that this Prime Minister, this future Prime Minister, these future leaders of this country get, the better it would be for all of us. And that's what drives us and drives me. When we looked at the teacher problem more closely, like I said, the teachers are coming from the same education system as each one of us is. And it is not an aspiration today, unfortunately, for people and the best of the people to go into teaching. Most of us want to become engineers, most of us want to become doctors, most of us want to lead easy lives. Probably the toughest job to do anywhere amongst any jobs that you would have come across is the job of a teacher. It's very, very difficult. So the two problems that we see in the teaching space when we looked at it very, very closely is the skill inequality and the skill uncertainty, and I'll explain that to you. So there was a study conducted by Brookings, which is one of the biggest think tanks in education globally. What they found out by studying close to 80 education systems across the world was that if you look at the best resource school in a country, and if you look at the worst resource school in a country, whether it is India, whether it is the US, whether it is a country in Africa or wherever, there is a gap in the pedagogy and conceptual understanding of teachers between these two segments, the best resource schools and the worst resource schools. And the kind of trainings which teachers are given, it will take 100 years to fill that gap. So that's one problem which has to be cracked. The second is that there is skill uncertainty. And let me explain. So if you were to look at a child today, the child will enter the workforce in 2045. My understanding is that today's education system does not even prepare a child for the problems of today. Forget about the problems of the child or the kind of workforce which will be there in front of the child in 2045. So therefore, there is an urgent need to educate teachers about what these skills are, and these skills are social skills, emotional skills, mental health issues, right? There will be character building, there will be moral values, there will be so many things which has to be taught, and sustainable development goals as well. Financial literacy is such a huge issue, right? We all are making money. I am at this point in time more than 32 years in my career, but I don't think I really know how to manage the money that I earn. And that's a problem which is going to be much more multiplied as we look at the future. And it's not just about India. India has close to 10 million teachers which teach around 300 million children in approximately 1.5 million schools. But globally, this kind of a gap will impact 825 million children if this thing is not impacted in a meaningful and a right manner. So we started what is called as Million Sparks Foundation. It's a not-for-profit where we are basically enabling teachers, enabling the lifelong learning and capacity building of teachers so that they can impact the life and learning outcomes of students. That's what we are doing. And we want that every student in the world must have a great teacher. In our analysis, what we figured out was that lifelong learning actually has 3 elements. There are trainings, and these trainings have to be then subsequently further sort of focused on so that they can be refreshed in the minds of the teacher. There are tools, so lesson planning tools, annual flows, and so on and so forth, which can be created for teachers so that teachers find it easy. right? I have been in boards where there are board members who are paid more than 1 crore, more than 5 crores at times, but they don't come prepared for a board meeting. And they expect the CEO and the CFO will explain whatever is the agenda of that meeting during that meeting itself, right? Whereas the expectation of the teacher is the teacher will go into a classroom for 200 days every year and be prepared for that classroom by making lesson plans on their own. We want to ease that thing by providing lesson plans to teachers. And then there is so much learning which is there in the world, which could actually come into you through osmosis, and a lot of people in the corporate sector get the opportunity to go to conferences, go to subscribe to journals and so on and so forth, but teachers don't usually get that opportunity. We want to provide that opportunity to the teachers by providing them with a daily kind of a social messaging where 25 posts are given to them, something like a Twitter if you were, for education, where these 25 posts will be on various topics. They could be on physics, they could be activities in mathematics, they could be polls, they could be something on sustainable development goals, gender equality, climate change and so on and so forth. So that's what this particular application that has been developed does. We were supported by Google.org, Central Square Foundation, Paytm, Microsoft, and so on and so forth. We raised close to $2.5–3 million, and we at this point in time, we are further deepening the application. And we have close to 610,000 teachers on our platform, which impact close to 30 million children year on year. And these are in across 22 states, across various school segments. And while we are talking about school segments, let me tell you that out of the 10 million teachers in the country, close to 60 lakh teachers are in the government sector, 40,000 teachers are in the private sector, and out of which I would say more than 25 lakh teachers would be getting less than 5,000 rupees a month as monthly wage for them. And we have had cases where teachers have quit schools so that they can become domestic helps, because Kamwalis can make 15,000 rupees in a month if they pick up 3 houses. A teacher picks up only 5,000 rupees from these schools. So which is the situation of this country, and this needs to change if we really want to see a much better future. We do trainings on both scholastic and co-scholastic topics. So we do trainings on, say, for example, probability, mensuration. We do trainings on sustainable development goals. We do trainings on how do you save the Yamuna so that you can save lives and so on and so forth. So we do this trainings in partnership with the SCRTs, with NCRT. We develop certain trainings with other not-for-profits as well, and we partner with lots of corporates to do that. We have close to 200 odd trainings. The teachers are given certificates which are signed by the state, and so that they can feel good about the trainings that they're doing, and they can contribute better in the classroom. And so just want to sort of end by saying that this is a cause which I found for my own self. And it's not the only cause that I work on. Of course, I'm working on climate change. I'm helping a startup which is into lithium-ion battery recycling to sort of grow and scale so that there is a lesser impact on the environment. Through this particular thing itself, we partnered with the UNEP, with the WWF, which is the Worldwide Fund, United Nations Environment Program, the Center for Environment Education, and we taught children about plastic waste, impacting 2.5 lakh students, and they reduced not only their own, sort of consumption of plastic, but they went and taught their communities, and it would have impacted close to, if nothing, not more, close to 1 million odd people, and they've reduced their plastic intake. Right now, we are focusing on working to provide digital education to girl children and to ensure that they, they imbibe the digital platforms which are there for better productivity and for better understanding of their subjects and so on and so forth. And this is being done across 6 states, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Goa, Haryana, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh. So my message to you is that please find that one cause which you would be wanting to spend maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours to begin with. But as you progress, once you realize that there is enough that you have in the bank, that you don't need to earn, there is enough in the bank so that you can lead your life easily. I would think that you should come out, maybe spend more time, because unless and until each one of us try to solve the problems, it will not get solved. That's it. Thank you. Thanks.